It's very, very exciting to be here on our 100th and final stop of the Town Hall Tour. Thank you so much for being here. Absolutely. My name is JB, and I'm the Eastern Iowa Regional Organizer for Rob's campaign. It has been an absolute pleasure to drive all around the state and meet all of you guys throughout the Town Hall Tour that we've been doing. And it's absolutely awesome to be here, finishing it out strong in Rob's hometown here in Decorah. My ask of you is that after you hear the very inspiring message that you're about to hear, and that I know many of you have already heard before, that you come and help us out spreading that message, especially here in Winneshiek County, where you all are already integrated into the community. As much as we'd love to do it all ourselves, we don't have the capacity for that, and it also makes such a difference when it comes from people like you guys who your community already knows, right? When you hear something from someone in your church or in your school or in your place of employment, it means so much more because you know those people and you trust them. So please help us be a conduit for this message. Help us knock doors. That's the most impactful way. You can help us make phone calls. You can help us send texts. Any of those things are going to make a tremendous difference. So please help us be a part of that. We'll get you signed up in the back or find any of us with a shirt, and we are happy to help you. That is my ask. And now to get you inspired to do that, I'm very, very excited to welcome our candidate who will tell you more about his vision for an Iowa that is not just bluer or redder, but better and truer. Please give a warm hometown welcome to the next governor of the state of Iowa, Rob Sand.
Great to see you. How are you? Good. Thank you for being here. It means a lot. Hi, friends. How's everybody doing? Hey, Barnes, I can't do this. I'm just going to want to say hi to everybody as I'm seeing and recognizing them. It's going to make this almost impossible. It's probably going to take more than an hour. I apologize in advance. You'll also notice at some point, and I'm just going to tell you now, my voice is not doing great. I was explaining that the biggest reason for it is there was a huge buck in Des Moines. And the urban season opened September 20th, and I had him in my sights, and I knew there were other folks too that were hoping to tag him. And so I just went really hard, and I exercised less, and I slept less, and I got sick because of it, but I'm getting better, and he's not. I tagged him, and he's on my wall. So I'm going to do my best to project. I apologize if you can't hear me. I'll just, wave your hand at me if you're in the back and you can't hear, and I'll try to make sure the microphone is closer yet to my mouth. Thank you for being here. More importantly than that, I would not be who I am if it were not for this town and all of the people who live in it. I can't thank you enough. I gotta point out Andy Rasmussen, one of my best friends from high school. I picked out this shirt because it's his wedding shirt that I wore to stand up in his wedding, and that's why it's on me today. I'm so happy to be here with all of you. I oftentimes tell the story and why I think one of the themes in this campaign really has been talking about the idea of leading people not into temptation. And all of you helped do that for me, partially because this is the town that my dad grew up in, right? And so I knew, whether it was someone on the other side of the street from me on Water Street that I recognized, or if I didn't recognize them, it helped me be a little bit better behaved, because I might not know who they are, but they knew I was a sand boy, right? And if they didn't know Kevin, they knew Danny. And if they didn't know Danny, they knew Bob and Verna, and I was going to hear about it. And this has been a theme of this campaign. You're going to hear me talk about it as we get into what I want to talk about. And we're going to try to have time for Q&A. This is probably going to go long because I'm too excited to be here with you. Forgive me. I want to start the same way we start in all of the other 99 stops that we have made. Joe and Vicky, hi. Joe Price and Vicky Price are here. Can we have a round of applause for them? They're probably the only ones I'll point out because we just came from Lansing, and I actually wondered if they were going to be in Lansing, and they weren't, and so now I'm surprised to see them here instead. Thank you for making so many of my Christmases so wonderful at T-Box. Sincerely, I love you guys. I want to start again at the same place we've started the other 99 town halls that we've done. I think there's one word that describes our political system today: broken. I think most of us understand it fundamentally because we vote mostly for one party or entirely for one party, but at the end of the day, we're mostly doing that because we feel trapped. We look at them and we say, well, I'm voting for you because the other side is scary to me. And we get them elected, and what changes? Not a lot. This is happening because our political system fundamentally is designed not to solve our problems, but to help people who are already in office get reelected. And the reason that it's gotten worse is because politicians have figured that out, right? They know it. You're going to ask me questions about lots of different issues. I'll give you my best answer. But part of the reason that we have so many problems and that they are so big and that they annoy us every single day as opposed to maybe once a month is because politicians understand solving our problems is hard. But getting reelected is easy if they can just convince us that they are the lesser of the two evils, right? And so that's where the majority of the effort lies. And it's not necessarily so much the fault of either party, but the fact that we are only allowed two choices. It's that these two parties have written special privileges into the law for themselves that force us to pick between one option from either of them. And so they know that they can just come out and say, well, I may be a thief, but my opponent is a thief and a murderer. Vote for me. Right? Does anyone think that I am being unfair? No. Then why is it that we haven't been talking about this? We know that this is the truth. Every one of us. But why did it take until right now in this campaign to have a candidate or a campaign that was starting to talk about it? We're past due for fixing this. Now here's the good news. One piece of the good news is we're here talking about it. Hard to fix the thing you're not talking about. Here's the other good news. Iowa has a proud tradition of saying to politicians, you're not so great. We're going to put ourselves in charge and create some systems that we think will work better for all of us, even if they don't work quite so great for all of you who are already in office, right? We're hearing a lot right now about gerrymandering in Texas and California. Do you know the first state to create an independent redistricting commission to prevent gerrymandering? Iowa. That's right. We were the first ones to say, yeah, you politicians, we don't trust you that much. We don't want you drawing the lines. We'll figure out a system that's fair, that's going to draw the lines. Public service, not politics. First state in the country to create a merit-based judicial, I can do it. A merit-based judicial selection system, Iowa, right? We have been a leader in these kinds of reforms before. A few other states and jurisdictions have beat us to the idea of rejecting the system right now where we're forced to pick between the lesser of two evils, but we can be among the first, and we can do it a little bit better. Early bird gets the worm, second mouse gets the cheese. So, to illustrate that a better political system is possible, I'm going to ask a couple of questions. If you should raise your hand in order to be honest, it's safe for you to do that. We're going to clap for you, okay? Raise your hand, please, if you're a registered Republican voter here tonight. Very good. Go ahead and put them up. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. I appreciate all of you being here, especially when I look at you and I don't recognize you. Because if I recognize you, it's like, okay, you're already just here for me. Raise your hand if you're an independent voter, registered independent voter here tonight. Excellent. Thank you all for being here. And just to make sure that we're being fair, let's also clap for the Democrats, okay? And then I want to do something that's going to sound great in this building. I want us to prove to each other, as well as to a lot of powerful people in both parties who want us to hate each other because then we're easier to control. I want us to prove to each other that we can get along and we can do something beautiful together. Let's sing the first verse of America the Beautiful. It starts, "Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, I will not kick us off." But anybody who wants to can pick a note, hit it, and we'll all join in. Oh, beautiful. Does anybody feel a little more hopeful already? Good. Good. They say quit while you're ahead. Thanks for coming. Goodbye. Okay. This is usually the part where I introduce myself, and I mostly don't need to do that with all of you, right? I'll do it anyway, because I'm sure some of you don't know me. So, if you hadn't noticed, yeah, born and raised in Decorah. Sand family, been in Winnesheek County since we got off the boat from Norway. Jeg snakker litt norsk, yeah. Sorry, Mrs. DeWitt. Sorry, Mrs. Betteridge. Although I did take Spanish later, didn't I? And I did okay. My wife, she's Christine. She is from Denison and then Ames area, Gilbert. Danish background. So it's a mixed marriage. But so far, so good. We have 2 boys. Axel is 9, Tate is 11. No diapers, no naps, no teenagers. Life is good. We are having fun. When I was growing up here, my first job was catching capons. Can I tell the story about you catching capons? I've never told this story before. I appreciate you saying yes. Catching capons, bit of a dirty job. I did it for a while. Andy came with one time, never came back. Look, I'll put it this way. I said, first job was catching capons. I like to hunt. I like to fish. I grew up doing that with my dad. We're all in church on Sunday. 3 of those 4 things are still important parts of my life. One of them is not, and I'm okay with that. So, the church piece, particularly important. If you know the Sand family, we would sing grace if we're all together, not just say it. You may know my Aunt Robin does religious artwork, my Uncle John, a pastor. What you might not know is Axel has his name in part because of my faith. When my wife suggested the name Axel, I finally did something smart. I thought, I don't like that name, and I kept my mouth shut. And instead of being, I skipped that part. I thought of a quote that Walt Whitman said once. And I know that he said it because they said so on the TV show Ted Lasso. So that's my fact check. Be curious and not judgmental. I looked up the name in the big book of Scandinavian names that we were using to guide our decision making. And it said, Father of Peace. And so I immediately thought of the Sermon on the Mount. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. At that point, I didn't want to name him anything other than Axel, right? I want you to keep that phrase in mind while we step into the Q&A. We're in mixed company. We have Democrats, Independents, and Republicans all in the same room. That's a good thing. Just want to make sure we're clear. But somebody might ask a question that makes your face curl up, or makes you think, well, I know all I need to know about you. No, just remember to be curious and not judgmental, okay? That's how we get out of the anger and the hatred and the bile that we are stuck in. That's how we reject the people who want us to be mad at each other. When I first registered to vote, I registered as an independent voter. You may have noticed by the start of this event, I don't really like political parties. I actually think at this point they are doing more harm than good. And I've always kind of felt that way. I registered as an independent because I don't want to vote for somebody because a bunch of other people wearing a blue shirt vote for that person. I want to vote for them because I think it's the right person in the right job at the right time. I don't want to believe in something because a bunch of other people who go to the same private club that I go to believe in it. I want to believe it because I sought the truth, and after seeking the truth, have decided that I believe it's the right thing to do, right? But we have a political system in Iowa where we literally tell independent voters that they are less equal than the rest of us, right? If you're an independent voter, you don't get to vote in a primary. You will never convince me that that is right. It's wrong. It's wrong and it's un-American. We tell people who have a constitutional right to vote that in order to participate in an election that their tax dollars pay for, that they got to join a private club first? In America. You got to be kidding me. That's absurd, right? It's wrong. I would love to change it, but I'm practical. And so in my early 20s, when I realized that that was the rule, I registered with the Democratic Party. I registered with the Democrats for two main reasons. Number one, my faith teaches me to be for the little guy, and I think the Democratic Party at its best is the party for the little guy. Number two, there was a Democratic president around that time that balanced the budget and used the surplus to pay down the national debt. And I remember thinking, thanks, because I didn't want to have to pay for all that someday, right? If you don't feel that the Democratic Party is the party for the little guy, that's okay, you can disagree. If you don't feel that there was a Democratic president who balanced the budget and used the surplus to pay down the debt, you're just wrong. That's a fact, all right? But that's just me, okay? That said, when I registered as a Democrat, I didn't leave my independent mind behind. I haven't read the party platform. I'm sure there's stuff in there that I disagree with. Some of that ground we've covered already in this campaign. I've already said things that have some people in the Democratic Party upset with me. I don't think you need candidates telling you what they think you need to hear. I think you need candidates telling you what they think, period. And so that's what I'm going to keep doing. When I finished my education, I went to work at the Iowa Attorney General's office, prosecuted most of the public corruption in Iowa while I was there. If you remember the Iowa Film Office tax credit scandal, prosecuted most of those cases. If you remember the largest lottery rigging scheme in American history, led the investigation that uncovered it and the prosecution that held the mastermind accountable for it. It's a crazy story. If you're not familiar with it, not only are there rigged lottery jackpots, but there are Bigfoot hunters involved in the case. Yeah. You should definitely learn more about it. You can do so by buying my book. It has sold tens of copies. If you're not the book reading type, there's a documentary that I had nothing to do with. It's called Jackpot, and it's available for streaming for free at lottodoc.com. Crazy story, fun story. I also, though, prosecuted a lot of violent crime in that time frame. Over in Almaquee County, sex abuse case, vehicular homicide here in Winneshiek, murder, attempted murder, bank robbery, bar fights, assault, lots of ugly stuff. And I realized it was giving me a darker view of the world. When you're a prosecutor, the only thing you're thinking about all day long are the absolute worst things that humans do to themselves and that humanity does to itself. And I had such a wonderful upbringing in Decorah that I would say I probably needed a little seasoning, right? But I also hit the point where I thought, that's enough darkness. I need something a little bit more positive and proactive that I can be putting my energy into. And so I thought about home. I thought about the skate park 2 blocks from here, where just 20 minutes ago, I was eating Mabe's Pizza with my mom and dad. And I thought about that project that Andy and I worked on for 2 years, our junior and our senior year. It was a lot of work for a high school kid. But what we did was we had people working together to solve a problem. People who disagreed. Skateboarders, for example, and property owners who were not particularly happy with skateboarders. And it taught me that when different people who think differently work together, you can come up with a lasting solution that's good for everybody. It also taught me that we can use our system of self-governance to address the issues that are in front of us. So, when I was at the Attorney General's office and I was hitting the point where I thought, I need something a little bit more hopeful and positive, I thought, what can I do that would be kind of like the skate park? Where can I build something? And I thought about the auditor's office because I had worked a lot with the state auditor's office. The state auditor's office conducts Iowa's public corruption investigations. Those investigations then land on my desk for me to prosecute at the Attorney General's office. I liked the people I worked with over there. I had noticed over the years that they didn't always make decisions in their investigations that would lend themselves to be useful in a courtroom. It turns out all the people in the auditor's office were accountants and CPAs. Nobody with law enforcement or courtroom experience. And so they didn't know what they didn't know. And I thought, well, we could have different people working together in the auditor's office and we could fix those investigations to make sure they're working well in a courtroom. But I also thought that alone doesn't seem like a reason to run for statewide office. So I did something that every single teacher in this room can tell you is the truth. I did my homework. I read, in this case, my homework was chapter 11 of the Iowa Code. It's the one that says Auditor of State. And I read it 3 times. I found something reading chapter 11 incredibly exciting. No one has ever said that to you before in your life. No one will ever say that to you again. In fact, if you're so excited after tonight and you're having trouble sleeping, chapter 11 of the Iowa Code will put you to bed tonight. But genuinely, seriously, I did. There was this little nugget in there. When I saw it, I thought, oh my gosh, this has been forgotten. Here we have this auditor's office that's doing these financial statement audits, and they could be doing so much more under the law, and they're just not doing it because somebody forgot. This office under the law has a tremendous capacity to promote government efficiency, and it wasn't doing much of it. I want to be state auditor. I could run and build a government efficiency program that could save money for everybody across the state. Just a little skate park right there in the state auditor's office. And so I did. I ran in 2018 and we won. And we started a government efficiency program. It's called PI, Public Innovations and Efficiencies. We created a list about 9 or 10 pages long of practices that cities, counties, and school districts can implement to save money for taxpayers. The more of them they implement, the more money they save. If they participate and tell us what they're doing, hopefully they come back the next year and they got a few more practices in place. We have had over 500 participating entities. Most years in the program, it's been copied in 2 other states. It is a great way to save money. It's also a great way to lift up local public servants because we give out awards in the pie contest. And yes, of course, the award is pie, which means that you're saving money. Local elected officials that are doing good are getting more recognition, and I am eating more dessert. We did a few other things in my first term. We changed the rules so that no longer do you have to live in Des Moines, Ames, or Iowa City to work in the auditor's office. Do you know 3 places in Iowa that don't have to really worry very much about where they will be in 10 or 20 years? Des Moines, Ames, and Iowa City. I made that change because of you. I made that change because this town taught me that every family that comes to town or every family that leaves means something to us. Because my parents would sit there at the dinner table and we'd be talking about a family that was leaving. Were they getting along okay? Were they making friends? Was anybody picking on them at recess, right? And I remember how exciting it was when a new family came to town. Wow, where'd they come from? Why'd they pick us? It felt great. Why would state government subsidize the prosperity of 3 cities in Iowa that don't need any help with prosperity? There are people working in the auditor's office as well as every other state agency that want to live in small towns. They want to live in rural Iowa. We should let them. We do now in the auditor's office. Make me your governor, and we will do that with every state job that we can. We also changed the rules so that you no longer need a 4-year degree to work in the auditor's office. If you've got a 2-year accounting degree, good enough for me. I want to make sure that you're qualified to do the job. I don't care if somebody else thinks you should have a different sheet of paper or a different certificate. I just want to know that you're ready to do the work. I also took a solitary stand on a number of occasions against your tax dollars getting used to pay for the most egregious wrongdoing by government employees. $4 million in a settlement to be paid out to the targets of harassment by Dave Jamieson when he was running the Iowa Finance Authority. $4 million, your money. You didn't do that harassment. We have a law in the state of Iowa that says that when someone who's working for us does something wrong, and it's not garden variety wrong, we're not talking about a snowplow driver who accidentally clips a parked car. No, we're talking about willful and wanton, a higher bar, someone who's running a state agency who's harassing people that he works with. In those cases, we can go after them, and we can make them pay every single penny that we can get from them back to the state of Iowa so that they are responsible for their own actions. I learned right here that people should be responsible for their own actions. And so we had this law in the books, and I couldn't get anybody in Des Moines to agree that we should hold these people responsible for their own actions. Instead, all I got was excuses. Well, Rob, we've never used that law before. Well, maybe we should start. Maybe if we had started 10 years ago, this joker never would have done these things. Because apparently for him, the concept of other people doesn't help him understand how he should act. Maybe if his own bottom line was involved, he would get the message. Well, Rob, I don't know that we want to discourage people from joining public service. Some people we do, actually. There's a fundamental question that is beyond partisanship when we vote for someone. It's okay, we're going to send you to Des Moines. We're going to send you to DC. When we send you there, how rooted are you in your sense of right versus wrong? How sturdy are you on your own 2 feet when people start telling you, well, you see, we've always done it this way, and we don't want to discourage people from entering public service, you know, and we're not sure what would happen if we used that law. Are you going to be someone when we send you who says, oh, okay, I understand. Yeah, you're right. I guess we don't know what would happen. I guess I just will ignore the fact that this law exists and I'll just do what you guys do because I'm here with you now. Or are you going to look them in the eye and say, well, the way you're doing it's wrong and I won't go along with it, and I'm sorry if that makes you upset. I just gave you my answer. Here's the other thing that we did. We uncovered a record amount of misspent money. A record amount. How did we do that? Different people who think differently working together with each other. The first decision I had to make getting into the office was who's going to be in the 2 deputy positions in the office. I picked an independent and a Republican who had made campaign contributions to my opponent. Some of you laugh. A lot of people laugh. A lot of people in politics laugh. They're like, Sand's an idiot. He's doing this all wrong, right? Rob, you're supposed to punish people who oppose you. You're supposed to reward the people who support you, right? That's how you make people scared of you. That's how you concentrate as much power in one place as you possibly can. Does that sound like politics? Yeah. I have two answers to that, really. First of all, make people scared of me? Come on, look at this face. I look like I'm 17, right? 22? I'm 43, I promise. More seriously, answer number two. What if I'm not trying to do politics? What if I'm trying to do public service? Whatever happened to a concept of statesmanship, right? These aren't labels that I'm applying to myself. These are ideals that we should be focused on. So when you get to the end of your election, you try to do the right thing, which anyone, and I think anyone who's in their fair mind focused on public service or statesmanship would say. When the election's over, the winner says to the loser, hey, election's over, I won, but come on board, right? I want your help. Even a broken clock like you is right twice a day. Or as my dad likes to say, even a blind hog will find an acorn every now and then. And as my grandpa used to say, I've never been wrong. I thought I was wrong once. Turns out I was just mistaken. But every once in a while, when I'm almost wrong, I want someone there who's comfortable disagreeing with me to stop me before I make a mistake. That's how I make sure that I do a good job. That's how we uncovered a record amount of misspent money. It helped that they also misspent a record amount of money. But we did find every piece of it, and we stood up in circumstances where other people would have maybe just sat down, right? What was the response to that? This state worked together, Democrats, independents, and Republicans, to re-elect me as your state auditor. What was the response to that? After you all re-elected me, for us to keep doing the work that we were doing for you, the legislature and the governor signed a new law to make it harder for us to find misspent money. They literally legalized hiding documents from the auditor's office. 8 different categories of stuff that we're not supposed to look at anymore. This is brain dead, obviously wrong. You drove here. You're driving home again. You look in the rearview mirror and there's Dan Marks. Where do your eyes go next? Speedometer, that's right. That's right. Because he's a good guy. He'll give you a ticket if you're speeding. He'll be so nice about it though too, won't he? One guy one time answered that question by saying, not speedometer, but beer can. I hope he's okay. Everybody gets the idea, right? There are people whose job it is to lead us not into temptation. They're there to help us remember to follow the rules. We are good people, but sometimes we need a little help being good, don't we? And that's what we do for each other at our best. We help each other be good. For all of us out there, when we're driving, that's a patrol car. For the people who handle your tax dollars, that's the auditor's office. 8 different places the auditor's office can't look. We may as well have a rule that says no one law enforcement is allowed to patrol on county roads in Winneshiek County. What? What do you think is going to happen on county roads? Right? Speeding, drugs, murder. You got a problem? Take it to a county road. This is nonsense. Nonsense. This is what we get, ladies and gentlemen, from a broken political system. We can blame the people who made this decision, who supported it. They should be held accountable for it. But there's a bigger picture here. We have a political system that leads them into temptation by telling them, hey, you don't have to solve people's problems. You can actually be a bad steward of their tax dollars. Just demonize your opponent and that'll get you across the finish line, right? They have been led into temptation. How did this happen? One piece of it, 10 years of one-party control in the state of Iowa. 10 years of one-party control. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, what are you saying? Do we want to have the other party have 10 years of one-party control? Is that how we even this out? No. If that's what you're thinking, you're missing the point. If you think that having the other party have all the power is going to solve the problem, please visit California or New York. There you will find problems. Some of them are different because the parties are different. But any party, any place where one party has had too much power for too long will have some of the same problems. We all know this, right? We know this. Too much power for too few people for too long is a bad thing. Power corrupts, and absolute power. And we can add to that. And in Iowa, it takes 10 years. What have we gotten out of this? While they're over in Des Moines figuring out how to hide the money they're going to misspend from me so that we can't tell you, where's Iowa? 48th for personal income growth. If it seems like your friends in other states are doing better, it's because they literally are. 48 for personal income growth for us, but do you know who saw their personal income growth double in the last couple of years here? Odyssey, the company that runs the school vouchers program. They agreed to a contract with the state of Iowa, signed, countersigned, finished. A couple months later, contract gets amended. The only changes, more pay for Odyssey. No additional obligations for them to do anything else, just more pay. Wouldn't it be nice? They're serving special interest groups and insiders. They're not serving Iowans. What else are we getting? What are we number one in, folks? Cancer. Number two, we're number one in cancer growth. Number two in cancer overall, right? Our education system was the pride of our state. I loved every single year when the state's ITBS scores came out and we were number one. Or maybe we were number two, but we would say, we're going to get you next year, Minnesota, right? We're in the middle of the pack because while the folks are figuring out how to hide the money of yours that they misspent, they gave up on public education in the state of Iowa. It's wrong. This boils down to one thing. This is people in a position of trust and power who have a duty and an obligation to serve ordinary people who are putting themselves first. They're not serving Iowans, they're serving special interest groups and insiders. They do it because they don't think they're going to get held accountable. I'm willing to bet differently. I'm sick and tired. This campaign isn't going to be Democrats versus Republicans. This is insiders versus outsiders. This is the well-fed versus the fed up. I get angry about what they're doing in Des Moines and what all of us are going through. We were just in Almaquee County listening to parents talk about their child suffering with pediatric cancer. What have we been doing? What are we doing for ourselves? What are they doing for us? We sent them there to serve us. We are not the priority. It makes me angry, and I'm really grateful for one story in the New Testament because it makes me feel okay about my anger. You know, most of the New Testament, the story of Jesus is so consistent. It's love your neighbor, love your enemy even, right? Turn the other cheek, heal the sick, feed the poor. But Jesus got angry once too. It was when he saw the money changers at the temple abusing their position of trust and power to serve themselves instead of serving ordinary people. And he got very angry and he flipped their tables over. I'm excited to flip some tables in Des Moines. I want your help with it over the course of the next year. I know we have somebody here with CJ's got a microphone. Raise your hand if you've got questions. Oh my goodness, I went a lot longer than usual. I'm not sorry. Someone who's got a question? Okay, there you go.
What is the difference between Pi, what you just said, and the Doge group?
Good question. So, yeah, we just had the final Doge report come out today from the Iowa Doge. I do want to say, and this is genuine, I do want to say thank you to the people who served on the task force. I don't agree with all of their ideas. Some of their ideas are good, and they volunteered their time without pay to do that. So I do appreciate that. Here's one big difference, right? Pi, the auditor's office, run by people who think differently. Governor Reynolds, when she built the Iowa Doge task force, picked all people from one political persuasion. All Republicans, one independent, 0 Democrats. How do you get good decision making out of people who all think the same way, right? You generally don't. Yeah, I mean, this is just sort of common sense stuff, right? So that's one difference. Here's another difference. The Pi program is focused entirely on nuts and bolts operations, ways to save money, right? So it's things like installing LED light bulbs because they are cheaper, right? We're not making recommendations that really at the end of the day have to do with tinkering with people's pay or tinkering with people's pensions. We're doing things that are just plain and simple, easy ways to save money. When it comes to pensions, by the way, we have one of the best funded pension programs in the entire country. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If I'm your governor, we're not going to touch IPERS.
I, for one, am optimistic at your prospects winning next November. But as we know, the other 2 branches are very firmly held in Republican territory. My question for you is, what kind of strategy do you have to develop coattails to help bridge that gap?
So that's a great question. I want to be clear, and I appreciate that you acknowledged it. Yeah, I'll repeat the question. When you got to keep this thing real close to your mouth. The question was, the other 2 branches, the House and the Senate, right, and the legislature are held by the opposite party. So what does that mean for me in this race, and do I have a plan to develop coattails, right? The coattails question is sort of a different question. I have not had that one before. Here's my plan. I'm going to tell people who I am and what I think. And a lot of people for whom that will redefine, I think, what a Democrat is. I'm just telling people what I think. And I think that I am in a political party where I actually can do that. We'll find out. We'll find out. But that might make other people think, okay, if they can say stuff like that in that party, maybe I'm more comfortable voting for more people in that party. I don't know. My job at the end of the day is to win one race, okay, this one. And here's part of the reason why. It's the point that you just made. The other party has majorities in both the Iowa House and the Iowa Senate, and they are large. I, if elected governor, will be serving with a Republican legislature. If that is news to you, good morning. I don't know how long you've been asleep, but it's October 2025, and you're in Iowa. It's a Republican supermajority by a single seat in the Iowa House and not a Republican supermajority by a single seat in the Iowa Senate. I would like, and many Republicans even would tell you when they're off the record, they also would like their majorities to be a little bit smaller, but they're going to be there. This is what that means. Number one, I'm not going to get everything I want. If somebody comes to town and they tell you that they're going to promise to fulfill your whole wish list and you're a Democrat, check your wallet. Okay? That would be something a politician would do, right? I'm going to have to work with them. Here's the thing about that. You may have noticed this already. I like working with people that I disagree with. I actually think that that's kind of fun, and it might even be a little bit of something like a thing that we're supposed to do when we are peacemakers in this world. I want to tell you a very brief story. One of the people that voted against gutting the auditor's office was a Republican that I developed a wonderful relationship with. She had been at the United States Capitol on January 6, 2020 to stop the steal. But we had multiple conversations about this bill. She asked me good questions. I gave her my best answers. She said, okay, I'm going to vote against it. Later on, maybe the day before the vote, she reached out. She said, Rob, I just want to tell you, a lot of other people have been talking to me about this bill. And they're making some points that you and I didn't discuss, and I just want to tell you that I might vote for the bill. And I'm telling you that now because I don't want you to think that when I said I was going to vote against it, that I lied to you. I'm just really struggling right now with what the right thing to do is, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do, and I want to tell you that so you know I'm not lying to you. Does anybody here want to be represented by someone with that level of integrity? Yeah. So this is a person that has very different ideas than me, or had, I can't speak for today, about what happened in the 2020 election and who won it. But she still engaged with me in good faith and treated me with respect, kindness, and integrity. I can work with anyone in the legislature that I can describe the same way I described her. Where are you? All right. Howdy.
Hi, Rob. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it, and everybody does here in this room tonight. Appreciate you running. It takes a lot of courage, and it's a big deal. My question and point to you is on an issue you've already mentioned, and that is Iowa's dismal state of water quality. We have a crisis. We have a crisis. I spent $400 in my house so I have safe drinking water to prevent my wife from getting the bladder cancer that killed my sister. A lot of people in this room can't afford to do that. We have a crisis, and it's all because of our industrial scale agricultural model that has changed everything from when I grew up on a farm as a kid in the 60s and 70s. It's altogether different now. 2/3 of the state could be declared a Superfund site if agriculture was regulated like every other heavy industry, and that's not any bullshit. We have a real problem. You're talking about it. Thank you. I want to know what you're proposing to do about it to fix it.
Sure. Thank you for the question. This is a really important issue to me personally because I grew up here. Because I would be trout fishing up in North Bear and in South Bear, because I'd be tubing in the Upper Iowa River, because we'd be riding our bikes off of a ramp into the Upper Iowa River. Don't tell my parents. I want my kids to have that same level of freedom and that same level of joy and comfort in experiencing the outdoors in the state of Iowa. Right now, though, we had literally a record number of beach closures in Iowa this summer. The present leadership, their solution to the water quality problem in the state of Iowa is literally to defund water quality monitors so that we don't know about it, right? They've reduced the amount of monitoring of water. You might detect a theme here. Oh, did we misspend a record amount of money? Well, let's make it so the auditor can't find it. Oh, do we have a record amount of beach closures? Well, let's make it harder to figure out how bad the water quality problem in the state of Iowa is, right? That's wrong and it's irresponsible. We should want to know the truth because when we know the truth, we can then do the right thing. Now, I am going to push back on some of this. And I know that you're speaking out of a place of emotion because I can hear your emotion in it. And I do that too. And sometimes I catch myself using some of the words that you use that I'm going to quibble with. You said it's all because of agriculture. I don't think that we can say it's all because of agriculture. I don't think that we can say that. I want to be really clear about where responsibility lies because we need to put resources into exactly the right places, right? We are number one in cancer. One of those is lung cancer. We are the number one state for radon. We know that some of this is radon, right? And so we have to be careful about how we act with this because taxpayer resources are scarce and so are lives. They are precious. If we put funds into a place or into a program that is not an effective and efficient way to address our cancer crisis, we are being irresponsible. So we should be doing something about radon, right? We should be doing something about water quality. You asked specifically for my plan. Here's the thing. On any issue in politics, you can pick a plan up off of a shelf. That doesn't surprise anybody, does it, right? There's half a dozen people who are always out there ready saying, here's what you should do, here's what you should do, here's what you should do, right? How do we know who to trust when we do that? Here's the answer for me. I don't trust anybody. I do my homework. And so on water quality, I'm literally sitting down reading studies. I'm looking at the causation and the correlation between nitrates and cancer. I'm talking to people who are at the Des Moines Water Works, and yes, I am also talking to Farm Bureau. I'm going to talk to everybody. Why am I going to talk to everybody? Because it worked for me when I was a prosecutor and when I was an auditor. And I think that a better approach to our water quality problem is the approach of a prosecutor or an auditor rather than a politician. It takes a little bit of you don't know what and I don't know what either to stand up in front of somebody and say, well, I'm reading about it to make a plan. Most people who are doing what I'm doing would just say, here's my plan. And they'd have 3 things that they can say about it before they have to run away so that you don't figure out they don't know anything else. I don't think I'm being unfair, am I? I'm studying all of this stuff because I want to get to the point where people understand that I know what I'm talking about and that I have depth in the issue. And I also have listened to enough people to understand where everyone else is as a stakeholder. At the end of the day, I want to put together a water quality plan that is both impactful and achievable. If we have a plan that is impactful but not achievable, it's pointless. If we have a plan that is achievable but not impactful, it's pointless. It has to be both. Here's a couple of things that I don't think get acknowledged enough, at least not in my party, right? More farmers sign up for conservation programs than politicians allocate money for them. Every year, farmers put together plans. They say, here's what I'm going to do. Here's where I'm going to do it. I'm going to put my own money in. I'm hoping for that cost share because there's a shared benefit. And they don't get any money to do it because politicians don't fund the programs, right? Survey after survey shows that large majorities of growers and producers agree that they have a water impact quality, an impact on water quality, and that they want to do better. There are some people out there whose attitude on water quality is they want to see somebody get punished. You know what I want? Cleaner water. And the best way to get cleaner water is to be focused on cleaner water. When I was at the Attorney General's office, and I was going to prosecute somebody for a felony that was potentially going to take their freedom away, I had to know every single fact in that case, upside down, backwards, left, right, everything. Because I was going to put it in front of potentially 12 random people off of the street, and they needed to understand that I knew what I was talking about, because I would have sat with that case for months, and they would have it for maybe 3 days. And if I was standing up in front of them and they saw that I was surprised by something, can they trust me? I want people to trust me on this issue. That takes time. I have one thing framed in my office, at the auditor's office. Actually, I have a few things framed. I want to tell you about one thing that I have framed in my office. It's a contract from the Iowa Film Office tax credit cases. And it's a contract that I have framed because it reminds me every day that to get up and do my homework. We had flown a witness in from Denver to testify about one contract. And as I was going through the paperwork the night before, I noticed what had looked mostly like a second copy of the same contract, but actually there were differences. And then I noticed, in fact, it was a different contract. And I went through the paperwork again and realized, I got to get up at least a full hour and a half earlier tomorrow to finish this and to go to this guy's hotel room tomorrow morning with my investigating agent to talk to him about this. And I did that work. It turns out he had never seen that, but his signature was on it. Very interesting. And so because I got up and I did that extra work, that piece of evidence of him sitting on the stand saying, I only ever signed one contract. Here's your signature. I did not ever see or touch a second contract. I'm going to do my homework because I take this water quality issue more seriously even than I take that. The opportunity to be governor of the state of Iowa is an important one, it takes time for me to build trust and figure out which witnesses I can trust, which witnesses have what kinds of bias or motives, and put together a plan that's going to work for everybody.
I have a question. Since you are running for the Iowa state governor, you must know about the pushings of hard drugs in the streets of big cities in Iowa, and what is your plan to prevent that?
I couldn't quite hear what you were saying. Hard drugs are bad. Don't do them.
Well, yeah, no, but what is your plan to stop the outpush and bigger spread to younger, audiences?
Thank you. Look, I think the bottom line on a lot of this stuff comes back to my work as a prosecutor. I prosecuted crime in the state of Iowa because we want people to have a safe experience. We want people to understand that they are safe, and we want lawbreakers to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. If people are out there pushing dangerous drugs, then they should be prosecuted for it. We should be focused on making sure that people who are doing this kind of thing are held accountable for it, period. Where'd you go, CJ? All right.
We were wondering what you would like the younger generation to take away from this campaign.
Could you guys hear? That one I heard clearly. We were wondering what you would like the younger generation to take away from your campaign.
And Rob, real quick, can you tell them why you're here?
We are here for an AP government course.
Mrs. Jorgensen, did you hear that? My AP government teacher is here. Are you in Mr. Pierce's class? Actually, he was the government teacher. She was the history teacher, but we didn't have AP government at the time.
We're here from Cresco. Our teacher is Kelly Langrick.
Oh, okay. All right. Hey, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming. Here's what I want you to take away from this campaign. The emancipation struggle of our time is to reject two private clubs that want to force us to be members of their clubs in order to exercise our constitutional rights to vote, right? We are trapped in a system that forces us to affiliate with people that divide us and tell us to hate people that we want to have a nice Thanksgiving meal with, right? Who here has had Thanksgiving get a lot more difficult over the last 10 years? Here's a campaign slogan: make Thanksgiving fun again. I think I got that one. I kind of want to say more, but that's pretty good. CJ, where are you?
Right over here.
Okay, thank you.
This is going to be the last question.
What are you going to do for schools in Iowa?
Great question. I want to restore schools in Iowa to the place where we can look at our state quarter and go, absolutely right, when we read what we wrote on it. Here's a couple of things that I think we can do to do that. Let's start by talking about what I would say is the second biggest invitation to waste and abuse of your tax dollars in Iowa history. First biggest, gutting the auditor's office. Second biggest invitation to waste and abuse, the school vouchers program. Let me give you the evidence that leads me to conclude that. Because I don't just want to say it, I want you to understand, because then you can tell everybody else. I think people in the state of Iowa can believe two things. Number one, they can think, I really like the idea of school choice. And number two, they can think the school choice law in the state of Iowa is a complete boondoggle and going to see a lot of money get wasted. Here's why. Of all the ways that a private school can spend your money, and by the way, the program requires all the money to go into tuition before it goes to anything else. Of all the ways that a private school could possibly send your money in the state of Iowa, there's only one thing they cannot do. They can't pay a rebate to the parents who are sending their kids there. That's it. If a private school wants to buy flat screen TVs, if they want to buy a house for the superintendent, if they want to take a vacation to Florida using your tax dollars, there is no law preventing them from doing that, and we are not allowed to audit them, so I don't know how we would find out if they do it anyway. That's wild. It's wild. When I realized this, I had been sitting in my office in the Capitol reading the bill before it was a law. I went out to the rotunda to find one of the guys lobbying for the bill, and I ran it past him. I'm doing this as the guy that prosecuted the Iowa Film Office tax credit scandal, the guy that uncovered the largest lottery rigging scheme in American history. I'm standing there reading this to him, and alarm bells have been going off in my head. This is a big problem. And so I get to the end after walking him through it, and I say, so there's no oversight and no audits. There's no real rules. And I'm waiting for his response to be, oh, well, you have to look over here. That's where the oversight comes in. Or, oh, well, we realized that, and we're amending the bill before final passage. Sorry. No, he says to me, yeah, I know. We don't want public oversight of private schools. Cool, then don't give them public money. No sweat. I want public oversight of public money. That seems like one of the most basic obligations of government that you can imagine. Tell the people who are paying for it where their money's going. So, I want oversight, I want rules, right? If you want somebody to come in here and tell you again, we're just gonna, get rid of the whole law, you're asking to be lied to. It's gonna be the same legislature that passed it, right? I do think we can demand oversight because I think the vast majority of Iowans want oversight. Here's the other things that I think that we can change. And these would be good things for your tax dollars, and what's good for your tax dollars ultimately is also good for public education. The people who voted for this bill, they say they like school choice. Well, okay then, let's call their bluff. Because here's a few things that we could change in the law that would actually promote school choice. We'll see if they want to do them or not. Number one, if you take public money, you have to take the public. No picking and choosing which students you bring in as a private school. That is literally the most fundamental definition that they want you to think they mean when they say school choice. Presently, the way the law functions is this. School choice means private schools get to choose their students. No, let's make it mean what you tell everybody you want it to mean. Number two, we can't just have you hiking tuition by the $7,500 that you got from the state, leaving it equally as unaffordable as it was before. So we're going to put restrictions on tuition increases. Maybe it's just you get $7,500 and the kids come. You want to charge somebody else $15,000? Go right ahead. But you want school choice, you said, so let's have it. Number three, we are not going to be giving this to the wealthiest people in the state of Iowa who are already going to send their kids to private school anyway. I have an important piece of advice for everyone, but it's especially for the people who are handling our tax dollars. If you're paying money to somebody to do something that they would do for free, stop. You know what we could do with that money instead, if we weren't giving it to them? We can put it into our public schools. You know what else we could do? We could have all day, 5-day-a-week pre-K that is universal for every kid in the state of Iowa for a fraction of that cost. I like returns on investment. I like smart choices. 17-1. For every dollar that goes into early education, you save $17 in the future because those kids that get all day, 5-day a week preschool are more likely to graduate from high school, more likely to keep a job, more likely to go to college, less likely to break the law, and less likely to end up on public assistance. This is a no-brainer. We should be doing this. Here's another thing that I want to do that I'm excited about. Our teachers have to work really hard. There are oftentimes, the kids could use a little bit more one-on-one attention. It is 2025. There are things out there that can help our teachers and our paraeducators do this. Here's a simple one. I remember learning to read, and I remember when I was trying to read books that were just too hard. It was brutal, right? One of the most important things that we can do to make education, particularly for literacy, efficient and effective is make sure that kids are reading at exactly the right Goldilocks level that they're at for reading, right? Because you want the kids' mind's eye, their imagination, to take flight. Once they do that, they unwrap the miracle of reading. And every once in a while, you want them to get stuck on a word. Just often enough, right? As it turns out, I learned from doing a roundtable with educators in Eastern Iowa, right now, every grade level has 2 reading levels, 2 books. If there's 30 kids in a classroom, there's 30 reading levels in that classroom. Here's what we can do. Right now, we can have AI listening to each kid read and then giving them the next short story at exactly the right reading level for them. If we do that, every kid is going to learn to read much more quickly, and they're also going to enjoy reading. Because when kids are told to read books that are just too hard, they learn to find a way around reading instead of learning to read, and that's not good for any of us either, right? So it's not just making sure we're making smart investments, it's also making sure that we're using good tools that can help our kids and our teachers do what they're there to do a lot more efficiently and a lot more effectively. Restore the AEAs, boy, okay. That's a good one to talk about. Most of you know my mom. If you don't know my mom, I shouldn't say most. Many of you. No, I always try to be accurate, right? It's those most, many, all. It always gets a little tricky, right? Many of you know my mom. Her whole career was with Keystone AEA, other than a very short stint in physical therapy prior to that. She spent my upbringing, her career, driving around Northeast Iowa. I remember the day that she got that big, huge car phone with a giant magnet to go on the roof of the car. And we felt so much better because there were days when she'd get home late and it might be dark before 5 o'clock. But if she had that car phone, we knew that she was in a ditch somewhere in Clayton County, she could probably call for help, right? And I can remember her coming in the house, the house we lived at when I was a younger kid, before I turned 9. I can remember her coming in. My kid learned to walk today. She's on cloud 9. It's like her kid was her kid. The level of pride that she had in some other Northeast Iowa kid was the same as if it had been me or my sister learning to walk. She taught me that the work that you can do can be full of love for other people, love for your neighbors, right? And do you know what? We talked about Iowa's tradition of reform and good government. Did you know that the AEAs were a part of that too? All around the country, people looked at the AEA model that started in Iowa and they said, wow, maybe we could do that for our rural areas, for our small towns. Because the truth is, if you're in Des Moines or Cedar Rapids Public School, they can hire a full-time physical therapist. They got enough kids there to keep them busy. The AEAs are there because Decorah and Waukon and Elkader, they can't do that. But you can get my mom to travel between all of them. She'll do home visits even, right? And then it goes back to one simple thing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I have done, oh my goodness, this is number 800. This is my 800th public town hall. This is the last one. Never once, not one time since 2017, did anyone come to my public town halls where Democrats, Independents, and Republicans are all welcome, where we tell people at least 2 weeks in advance, I'm coming to town and this is where I'll be and this is when. Never did anybody ever come to me and say, I have a mild concern about the AEAs. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Why did we do this? We just played 52-card pickup with people's lives. That's wrong. Now, someone said restore them. I hear you. I feel you. I'm going to be working with the same people that just passed that bill. I want the system to work. What we're going to do is make the system work. The way we do that, sort of the same idea that this is all about. Listening to people, not insiders, not special interest groups, Iowans. All right. It's past our bedtimes. CJ told me last question and then they took the shouted question, even though I've been told to stop doing that because I want to answer your questions. I am going to wrap it up. We can win this race. We can win this race. There are some people who say, I think Sand can win because he's won 2 other statewide elections. If that's you, I'm not going to argue with you. But I'm going to tell you even more reasons why we can win. And I'm going to do it in a shorter version. Here's the bottom line. An echo typically comes to you from a place where you know to expect one. And if you get an echo from somewhere an echo shouldn't come from, you know something strange is happening, right? The message of this campaign and support for this campaign keeps coming back to us, echoing to us from places where we shouldn't get an echo. And it's more than a year before Election Day. Here's an example. A guy walking around a mall in Cedar Rapids who comes up to me. I'm not there for an event. I'm just there to get some steps in with a buddy of mine in between events. And he says, I know who you are. You're running for governor. I was just watching YouTube videos about you this morning. I'm going to register to vote for the first time in my life to vote for you. He's 28 years old. Getting someone who's 28, who has spent a decade defining themselves as a non-voter without targeting them with advertising or anything to say, I'm actually going to register to vote, kind of a miracle. An echo where an echo shouldn't exist. I say, thank you. Why? He says, a simple answer. The idea that we should be bigger than Democrats versus Republicans. A lot of people would tell this guy, hey, buddy, you've missed some important elections. His answer to you would be, I never heard anyone willing to say the most obviously true thing about politics right now. You said it. I'll register to vote for you. Here's another example. An op-ed appeared in a paper in Marshalltown. Guy says, here's a bunch of things I believe. I must be a Democrat, right? Here's another bunch of things I believe. I must be a Republican, right? I'm sick and tired of pretending there's only 2 ways to think. It is tearing us apart. It is destroying the social fabric of our state. And I'm ready to ride off into the sunset and quit, but Sand's campaign for governor is different. And I hope that everyone in the state is paying attention to what he is saying right now. Because if you listen to what he has to say, you will hear something you haven't heard before. Sort of a miracle for that op-ed to just appear 15 months before Election Day, but get this. The man that wrote it has served in the cabinet of Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds. Yeah. He was recommended for that job by United States Senator Joni Ernst. I hear the emotion. I acknowledge the emotion. There are more stories like this. There's the Woodbury County Republican supervisor who put a Facebook video out saying Sand's mostly an independent and they never should have gutted the auditor's office and he thinks he's going to win in a landslide. There's the former county chair of a Republican party who the Republicans hired to follow me around for 2 years and videotape everything I said, and at the end of it, he asked me for a bumper sticker. Right? And now he's came out and told the local newspaper reporter, if it's me versus at least one of the Republicans that's running on the other side, he will put my yard sign in his yard. And he quoted the musical Hamilton in doing it. So if you think that Republicans don't like musicals, think again. He said, it's like that song from the election of 1800, I think it was, when all is said and done, sand has beliefs, the Republican has none. He watched me walk around the state of Iowa and answer questions from anybody who came up to me. And after 2 years, he said, never mind Democrat, Republican, that's a public servant, not a politician, right? We can win this race. You are part of that. You are an important part of that. You are part of that. Here's why. The message has to get out there. You need to help. 3 things you can do to help. Number 1, most important thing that you can do, sign up to volunteer and then actually volunteer. The easiest way to get a person to change their mind or to take an action, a face-to-face conversation with another person, okay? Please do that. If you don't like the idea of conversations, you can send text messages. That helps too, not as much, but it helps. Number 2, please donate. Every dollar that you donate helps us get the message out. Every campaign that I have had, we have raised a record amount of grassroots donations. This will be no exception, is my belief. If you have donated before, thank you. You may now donate again. Number 3, social media. Social media is the scourge of our time. It is destroying our attention span, liquefying our brains, filling us with lies, and making us hate our loved ones. We should all turn it off. But while you're there, please like and share my posts. Here's why I want you to do that. Because when people have a chance to get to know me through social media, they get to hear what I stand for, and they get to know who I am, okay? Simple enough. It's just that easy. There are people who don't want to come to this event. They don't want to come to any events. Maybe they got to work. That could be it too. But they can get to know me if you'll follow along the Rob Stand for Iowa page and then hit the share button when you see our posts. If someone's posting terrible lies about me, do not touch those posts. Okay? Don't tell them that they're lying. They know, probably. All you ever do when you touch a post is you elevate it. More people will see it. So if you see a mean one about me, don't touch it. Just go to my page and share 4 of my posts instead. Okay? Folks, if you do this, we can win this race and we can be on our way maybe to a state that's balanced, where you've got a Democrat in the governor's mansion and a Republican legislature, and they just have to work together so that every single bill and every single budget that gets passed has common sense in it. Or maybe we're on our way to an Iowa that has a new level of ballot freedom, a new level of choice for people, a new level of accountability for elected officials, and a state that, like the place that we love, doesn't have people wanting it to just be redder or bluer, but better and truer. 100 town halls done. Thank you, Decorah. Thank you, Winneshiek County. Great to see all of you. Really appreciate you being here. Thank you.